Boxing, we didn't have names for you, so she didn't write your name They are only rooted on your right. So you just go behind. Good morning. Listen, you don't. Are these ladies coming? The ex-Mrs. Leeds, are they coming? Oh. In whose place are they coming? They don't. We put it down on the just asked.
Maar je moet komen.
Thank you so much for your patience. What we actually did is to give you the folder for you to read it through, to be up to date. And thank you so much for that. First of all, I would like to welcome you here today to a very, very important milestone in the history of Namibia, the Ministry of Youth, National Service, Sports and Culture, and in particular the Namibia Sports Commission. Would like to welcome you to this very important National Youth Conference. And before I want to give you more detail on that, I would like first to recognize the presence and welcome people from other countries, our neighbor countries, to this event. And of course, first of all, I would like to welcome Dr. Wey, the Director of Sports. We thank you for that, Dr. Wey, for being here. And then, of course, our friend, Thompson, Youth Thompson and his wife, Jean. They are the people, our guests actually from the UK, the Youth Charter, and he will give you more insight into what the Youth Charter really is. And then I also want to welcome our friends from our neighbor countries who will also presenting or assisting us in this workshop or conference. First of all, Mr. Aaron Zambo. He is the country liaison person, Youth Charter in Zambia. Good morning. He will tell us about his experiences he had with the Youth Charter in Zambia. And then I would also like to welcome Mr. Sipho Chabalala. He's a director, Pumelele, Tours and Transfer Youth Charter South Africa. So we can also learn a lot from him. And also I would like to welcome all the commissioners who are here. Mr. Charles Nyambe, Mrs. Renette Jung, welcome also and thank you for your support. Then also, of course, for the delegates who are here, thank you so much for coming. You must be assured that we will look after you. When you leave this conference, you will be very motivated and you will carry the message through, especially to our youth. And then, of course, last but not least, Mr. Schaifer, Kali Schaifer, is a former commissioner, but he was instrumental in bringing Mr. Youth Thompson here. He was the person who connected us really with with Mr. Thompson. Therefore, he also appears on the program to tell us about his experiences and why did he bring Mr. Thompson here to Namibia. So thank you so much, colleagues. Please enjoy the 2 days, the 4th and the 5th. Give your input, because it's not for ourselves, it's for the youth out there. And Thompson will really tell you what problems we have and what difficulties we are having, and also the successes we can have. So with these words, I would like to give over now to Thompson to say a few things, and then we will go to the main picture. Before I call Mr. Schleifer. Or are you fine? Can I continue? All right, fine. All what I want to tell is, colleagues, let us either our cell phones on silence, or please, I don't want to say that you should really switch it off, but it's good to have it on silence. And there are other things which I don't want to mention, which you know what to do. I don't want to say don't do that, don't do that. But I think the cell phone is really the one I'm really worried about. If you have any other thing, we have a secretariat there. You have myself, you have Thompson, you have everybody. Mr. Theobald will also assist you if you have problems with any other logistics, as well as Mrs. Thompson, and we have Mrs. Marilla Davel. She will produce the report. Too much about it, so I would like to call Mr. Schleifer to the podium. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dustin, Jeff, Janet, and all other delegates, our visitors from Zambia and South Africa. Indeed, for me and myself, it's an honor to be here this morning just to share a couple of words with yourself on this whole thing of the Youth Charter, the supportive complementary role between youth, the development of sport, if we involve in youth. It's really about the journey. I think the journey started some years ago, but it's always good to look forward, because we've departed and we're on our way somewhere in making a difference in our respective countries, making a difference in sport, and making a difference in the youth of our country. I think if one look at a day like today, I think surely it starts somewhere, and it must originate from somewhere. And I think what you see today is hopefully at the end of this course, at the end of this workshop, we would have multiplied some of Jeff's vision and some of where this whole vision started off. We would have duplicated, invested some of that in yourself, and sending yourself out with sport administrators and ambassadors, but more so with a clear vision of the big challenge of what lies ahead if we really make a success of the whole issue of youth and bringing youth and sport together. I think what we see today, as I said, the journey started some years ago. I think the first time when Jeff were in Namibia was in the mid-90s, when we launched the Youth Charter, when we started with this. And I think during this period of time, we've made some progress, but still a big challenge for us ahead. But I think it's really about, if we take out of the journey where we came from, it's really about the commitment. The commitment of the individual, of his support structure, of his organization, and actually being prepared to invest in the youth capital, in the sport capital in each of our countries, and certainly from his point of view in his own country, Great Britain, but also across the boundaries of his own country into the world, and also for us, his commitment into Africa. Thanks, Jeff, thanks very much for your dedication, commitment towards the development. I see this whole course and the workshop over the next a day or two as twofold. I think on the one end it will certainly yourself, all as mostly sport administrators, youth leaders, and involved in social upliftment in some or other way. I think it will really bring two legs or two pillars of the whole issue together. The one is to actually promote sport through the youth. I think that's what most is involved in. But I think the second opportunity that's have great challenges for each one of us, and with great rewards and returns, will actually to also to use the second leg of developing the youth through sport. I think that's the next medium. I think the youth these days in the world that we live in is actually, they're running around they not quite know where they're going sometimes, or they get onto the television, they get onto other things, they're exposed to some other challenges, and I think we need to offer them sport actually to attract the youth. So it's twofold. It's the development of sport through youth, and I think the second one, from my mind, is actually to develop the youth through the medium of sport. Get them involved in sport, let them get to enjoy sport, and through that we have an opportunity to share with them and to invest in their future and create new leaders. During the 2 days in the course, you will share some exciting thoughts and challenges amongst each other. And I think, as I said earlier, when you go home, I think you will have your own passion just sort of re-energized and motivated, and you will go out and apply it within your own terms what your good course is in your area of influence in your respective country, either Zambia, South Africa, Namibia, and within our area of influence within Namibia, wherever we come from. I think the fact that you here today already support that you believe in sport, that you believe in youth, that you're committed in doing something, and I think that's exciting. It's a good point of departure, it's common ground, and we will take it through this session, through this course further. I think what's nice of this whole 2 days, it's an interactive session. It's based on African experience. I think some consultation has taken place in Namibia last year, September, October, somewhere along. Before that, also some case studies and some interaction between the Youth Charter through some of the other African countries in the region. So it's Africanized. You will be trained as a trainer. I think that's the challenge of a session like this, but at the same time, that's the responsibility on each one of us. Taking that responsibility of the trainer. If each one of us that's here can go back to our area of influence where we come from, and we can bring about change in 5, 10 people's mind there, and that can multiply, what a great task. If we can go beyond our boundaries and create another 2, 3 people involved, the whole trainer concept will, at the end of the day, or in 6 months' time, means that the 30, 40 people that are here today can multiply into 140, 150, and that's a challenge. I would also suggest to the organizing committee, to the commission, and to Ruston to have a follow-up. I think it's always important to keep things activated, to share achievements. Sometimes one gets alone, you're confronted with some reality, you don't know where to go. It's about networking within Namibia, in the region, and that's the strength, I think, of sport. And if we can have sort of interval meetings on this, I think we can just have so much more success in applying what you will be learning over the next day or two, and also sharing your experience. It's not just a learning experience, it's interactive. You will be sharing. At the end of the day, sport is dynamic. The world that we operate is dynamic, and we continuously need to strive to change and to improve, to be relevant, because the youth also change and they're also confronted through other mediums. So we need to compete with that as well. I think as I said, the Youth Charters, the program and their work has been tested, it's been Africanized, it's been tested in Southern Africa over the last 10, 15 years. At the same time, it also brings an international exposure through the expertise of Jeff and Janet to the table that we can also take in and accommodate in our own approach how we will actually apply this. It's a big challenge, and I think that we in Africa, or many African countries, is realized, and we believe that we must look out after our own destiny, we must start our own journey, and we must do something about it, because sometimes, with respect, if we leave it for others, it will tend to be slowed down, or it will sometimes tend to be influenced too much from the outside. We have an opportunity now in actually just bring rebirth and bringing something about that's fully Africanized and that's fully born out of our own experience within Namibia, South Africa, Zambia, Mozambique, and some of the other countries being involved in the Youth Charter. I think the challenge and also the example left by Jeff through his work through the Youth Charter and the session is also that it will be good and well to attend a session like this, but the challenge is actually to go out and to demonstrate that same commitment, to be prepared to do something, take the challenges, and to invest in our nation, in sport, in whatever youth activity we involved in. The course will cover and will give you, share some information with you relating to the social and human development of young people within our communities in Southern Africa. I think it will also take you through the social development as a delivery mechanism within the Zone 6 context, within the sport policy within Zone 6, but also within the UN Millennium Development Goals. So as I said, it's Africanized, but it's got a bigger challenge within our country, but through the network, sharing it in a SADC conference, and then also with the international exposure through it. So it's complementary to what's being aimed at through Zone 6, and I think for that it's also will get the support of the necessary structures wherever it will be addressed. I think it will cover and will give you a new scope or new challenge relating to the added advantages or challenges outside the scope directly of sport, where some other social health issues, benefits may come to the front through HIV/AIDS, what sport can play in that, it's crime, it's so many social aspects that our youth in our country is confronted with, that you will be able to apply again within the passion that you may have within your area of influence or within your scope of service or scope of challenge that you want to take on with yourself. I think you as the delegates will be able to identify the social challenges within in sports, and will also be able to actually adapt the program or the skeleton of the program to actually be applied and to give you some deliverables. At the end of the day, it's about doing something, it's about the measurement, it's about the continuous investment and to make changes. I think for any of the delegates, you will also be able to set yourself some short term. That's why I said earlier it's important to have a follow-up, to share some successes and to motivate each other on a continuous basis. But also on a medium and long term, you will be able to set yourself some goals and some measurables, and also some achievements that you will see coming out of this. I think the fact that you're here today, Jeff, also already assures you that we have the people, they're willing, and that they already committed in accepting this opportunity to actually building their own capacity and extending their capacity to actually reach out beyond the direct boundaries of sport on its own. I think these days it's about the investment. We all talk about investment. If we go for and ask for sponsorship money, I think we're confronted with investment money. I think gone is the days where companies, organizations just handed out sponsorship. It's about investments. It's about the best return that you can actually give your sponsor or investor. I think the workshop or the course actually confirms exactly that. I think it's actually to extend beyond the boundaries of the playing field. We know the sport, we all love the sport, we all play the sport, we coached it and we support it in whatever extent. And this is actually also a new dimension, as I gathered it for myself, and actually take us beyond the boundaries of the playing field, where we as sport administrators will also show our preparedness to actually accept the challenge of making a difference in addressing the social challenges within each of our countries, communities, or nations. I think it will demonstrate that we as sport administrators are prepared to, what I said earlier on, to use sport as a medium to develop the youth as well. I think that at the end of the day, if we go out and you apply what you've learned and what you've shared amongst each other during the next day, day and a half, I think that will also give Janet and the Youth Charter some return on their investment. It's a challenging road. I think it's not always that motivated, because sometimes you actually feel you make the necessary progress or not. But I think if we go out, you as the delegates go out and apply it, I think that investment will already be of more value than money to the organization, to the Youth Charter. The partnership that I referred to between organizations, companies and sport and youth structures, I think that investment, it'll also extend that partnership where some of the people, individuals or organizations that not all people love sport. Some of them like other activities, and sport actually competes with other cultural activities, be it education, health or whatever. Not everyone likes sport, but we need to compete. We are sport administrators that wants to use sport as a medium of developing sport and youth. We need to ensure that we get a fair share and a bigger share of that cake to enable us to fund our initiatives. And I think an initiative like that may be forthcoming out of this conference, where sport will also reach out to these other social activities, will also prove to the others, people that may look at sport and say, I don't like it, but then I have to realize and say, but wow, sport is an opportunity for us to reach into the youth, and it will demonstrate that sport is prepared to actually share with others. And I think you can also convince people that would not necessarily support or invest in sport, where they will actually say, look, give it to sport, because sport gives us a medium into reaching out to the social aspects within our communities. I think the opportunities will be open to some sport codes. We're all confronted with the development of sport, the development of our codes. Sometimes some sport claims that traditionally we can't develop it because there's no interest in my specific sport. I think after this day or what, there won't be excuse for that, because your sport can be used one of the other things, one of the other social aspects to actually reach out. So it could be beyond the boundary, more players onto your playing field, but where you can actually use your sport code and your people, your support structure can actually reach out into social things. So I think that's also a development opportunity, and it will extend the partnership. We all talk about 2010 World Cup soccer. It's just another opportunity with our neighbors, with our friends from South Africa, and we can work on that in actually working in partnership and see the benefits that one can get from a 2010 and from other activities sharing in the SADC region. I think that's about what I have to say. That's how I understood the journey where we came from with the Youth Charter over the last couple of years. I think some exciting challenges ahead beyond this, if you can go out and go and do from some of the information that you will be learning, some of the information that you will be sharing, strengthen your networks and actually use that to go ahead. I think Rustin has said it to the visitors from within Namibia or from outside Namibia first, Namibia, South Africa, welcome. Enjoy our country. We claim that it's a country with good hospitality. Challenge us on that. If there's anything that we can do, just activate the organizers. And the same from our people outside the capital of Windhoek, I think also welcome. And use the same opportunity, because we need to also extend and develop outside. Sometimes, for whatever good or bad reason, things tend to be dominated in the center. It's not by purpose, but I think it's also a challenge to take it out there. What I'm trying to say to you, and I'll just tell you a little thing in summing up, because I think at the end of the day, the challenge is for each one of you, the investment, train the trainer, and what will happen beyond this is more or less summed up in this little story that I will quickly read to you. There was an old man which was called Oracle. He was Oracle because of his visionary power. And two young boys learned about Oracle's genius and decided to test his wisdom. they went to the field and catch a butterfly. Holding it in his hands, the boy said to the other, "We will ask him," that's now Oracle the genius, "we will ask him what I have in my hand. And being intelligent, he will answer, it's a butterfly. Then we will ask him if it's dead or alive. If he answers it's alive, I'll squeeze it gently until it's dead. And if it says dead, I will open my hands and let it fly away. In this way, we can prove him wrong." With the plan, they went to Oracle, and the one boy asked him, "What do I have in my hand?" The alerted eye of the old man, Oracle, saw the piece of the butterfly's wing sticking out of the boy's hand, and he answered, "A butterfly." The young guy said, "Okay, is it alive or is it dead?" asked the boy. And the old man said, "The answer to that question lies in your hands." So I leave you with the challenge that will come out of this thing. Lies in your hands. It'll really you love this sport, you have a passion, you here, you want to make a difference. What you will get out of this and what will happen afterwards lies in your hands. Don't do it on alone, do it within your network, in your area of influence, within your sports code, whatever structure, and multiply to get people to support you. And I think the investment through this can change and can change the destiny of our youth in our country, sport in our country, and we can sit back probably in a year's time and have a recap on this and we say, wow, it's a big challenge, so big, we could have done nothing, or I could have done my little bit, and my little bit will multiply. With that, I wish you well, and I hope that you will enjoy the next day.
Up to 1 o'clock, so it's very important to know that. So I would like to call now Thompson, so they can sit, what is it, can give us what happened from so many years up to this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Royston. Ladies and gentlemen, today is a very important day. The next 48 hours will be very important hours, minutes, seconds of time. There is an African proverb that states, to give you my money is to give you my wealth. To give you my time is to give you my life. And all I would like to share with you as we continue this journey is to recognize that simple fact. By you all contributing your time, you are giving of your lives for the future lives of the citizens and young people of Namibia, Southern Africa, and around the world. We live in a global community. We live in a global society. Young people are communicating across boundaries that traditionally could not have been realized. The use of technology and what we are attempting over the next 48 hours will be revealed, hopefully, as part of that balance that I think we need to be looking at in how we use what was the African way, the spirit of overcoming adversity, translating it into opportunity, but at the same time recognizing in another continent that that spirit and emotion could become something that could be measured, not by way of our emotional, spiritual and practical wisdom, but by the knowledge and experience that would reflect the economics, the social, the cultural, the spiritual, the here, the now, but more importantly, recognizing the past. My own personal journey is something I shared with you at the Namibian Sports Awards last year, so I'm not going to bore you with that. And if you don't know of that, then I still don't know what I'm doing here. And if I don't know what I'm doing here, then you should certainly be asking why you're here. Because I am responsible for either the chaos or the success. But please be under no illusions. For those of us who win at world level, and I had that opportunity, you win because you take those commitments and chances. You win because you're prepared to push the boundaries. You're prepared to challenge the conventions. You're prepared to ask questions of yourself, those of your fellow competitors, and those of other countries who want to achieve the same thing. They want to see success resulting from their hard work and dedication. But no one ever realizes that to produce a Frankie Fredericks, as it certainly has been my experience, it has taken over 40 people, from mother to teacher to school friend to adversary. Every single step is part of the social and cultural characteristics that makes up a winner. And when we win, it becomes infectious. Everybody smiles, everybody shares in that symbolism, in that success. I've had that opportunity, I have shared that success. But then there is a time where we have to look at where it can go beyond the field. As Carl has mentioned, it has to go beyond, it has to have a greater significance. I had come from social disaffection. I had realised that disaffection with sporting achievement, and like so many of my culture and social background, sport was my way out of a community that had a number of barriers that were presented to it. But that's my journey. The Youth Charter's journey is an incredible one, because it starts from tragedy, as so much similar to Africa's experience. So much is inspired from the day-to-day struggle. The journey revealed now would suggest that the Youth Charter is a European experience brought for an Africanization. Well, I'm here to share to you and with you that the Youth Charter has always been African, because it was within 6 months of losing a young child of the African diaspora in the streets of Mossad that I was to come to Namibia. I was to come to Africa, and I was to have my spirits lifted as part of Southern Africa's re-emergence through South Africa within the world stage. Everybody looks at South Africa and Sipho welcome, but there was so much effort by African brothers and sisters throughout so many of the African nations who felt that that struggle needed to be liberated, and by that liberation all Africans were liberated. For me, it was an opportunity to come back home, to contribute within that spiritual family, the village. And I would like you to remember village, community, societies, because they are the three elements that you will be contributing to. It is the cultural framework that will be shared with you. But I'm going to share with you 11 minutes that reflect 15 years. 15 years of total dedication, not only of myself, but of over 1,000 people. It's a journey that starts from Mossad in Manchester. It's 11 minutes that I would like to share with you. And after those 11 minutes, I will then bring us back within this particular setting, within this particular nation, and within this particular region, as to what we can achieve over the next 48 hours.
The regeneration of Manchester has been one of the big success stories of the UK. Success in business, finance and the arts, but also in the regeneration of an area once written off by many. Hume and Mossad has had fresh life breathed into its architecture and its communities. Not that it has escaped the problems that often occur in many inner city areas. High levels of youth unemployment.
Since my retirement and my transition, I think Frankie will even testify it's a difficult transition to make. I don't think I had time to even consider my transition. I was thrust straight back into the communities that I'd come from. What I've shared with you is a very real experience. And if I may, many people say to me whenever I come to Africa, you have so much wealth, you have so many facilities, you have so much, give us some. You are so well off. What I'm here to say to you today, and the reason that this workshop is happening here today, is we are so worse off within our ability to bring up our young. That's why I had to come to Africa with this particular workshop, with this particular experience, seeking your contribution, seeking your experience, seeking the African spirit to affect, engage, motivate and inspire the African diaspora. You will recall the Mossad Millennium Powerhouse. You saw what it was. You heard me say that the jury is out. You may have just have caught a little yellow caged area. 6 months ago, a 15-year-old schoolboy was found murdered outside of that basketball court. His name was Jesse James. And I vowed the 35 lives that have been lost since the shooting of Benji Stanley, whilst we were attempting to get people to understand a simple African value, that if Africa is the birthplace of civilization and the village brings up the child, if a child had strayed from the village, would you have not gone on to look for it? And upon losing it to the ravages of life and the urban jungle or rural jungle, would you not have mourned and wished to ensure that young within that compound were not ravaged by the same experiences? You've seen much achieved, but I stand before you today saying to you, my medals mean nothing because we could not save the lives of our young. As I flew here, and I'm told many of you have Sky, because that's the wonders of the technological age, young people are still killing young people. They do not know where they've come from. They do not know their African culture, heritage, identity. But I believe that sport will continue to bring us together and provide us with the opportunity that is here, and right now. When I came back to Namibia last year, I flew out having just buried Jesse and a number of young people who said they needed to know their heritage. When you think about sport, please think about the opening ceremony of an Olympic Games. Dr. Vane will share with you. You shared much of this journey. I think most people remember the opening and closing ceremonies, do they not, Dr. Vane? The whole world actually takes a moment and holds its breath. Then once the games start, you'll have our individual pursuits and interests, a sporting code. But without that opening and closing ceremony, the real unifying power of sport in its broadest possible context could not be reflected any better than in Los Angeles, where we went in 1993, and where the 200 million deficit of the only profitable games has been invested in Wall Street, and as a result has funded young people in communities and projects that are as challenging as the townships here or the communities of disaffection in Manchester. And by the way, this is a global social and cultural experience. The young people of the diaspora on all 5 continents are losing their way. I recently came back from America, honoured to go to the Muhammad Ali Institute, and as a World Change Fellow invited to see how, certainly the man who inspired me in being able to not only perform in the ring, but to fight equally out of the ring for social justice, for beliefs that ensure that future generations are able to benefit from the wider social benefits that we as performers should, by way of our responsibility, become citizens that remember where we have come from and put back. I mentioned at the Namibian Sports Awards of 2006 that you already have an incredible individual in Frankie Fredericks who is doing that globally, nationally and locally. But we need you to become the social coaches. When I was asked what a social coach was, it was someone who does things extraordinary. You make something out of nothing. You do not accept defeat. You remove your emotional armour so that when the young look you in your eyes, they see the mirrors to your soul. They know that you care about them, whether they fail or whether they succeed. Because you as a social coach can identify their talent, that divine talent they're blessed with, and you can realise it in every single aspect of their life, so that the journey becomes a lifelong journey. They could be winners in sport, they could be winners in life. The 4 key themes of what we are sharing with you over the next 48 hours are identified in education, health, social and civil order, and the environment in which our young people live, develop and grow. There is a cultural framework that will be Namibian in its experience, South African in its experience, and Sipho will share with you how you feel that cultural framework with models and experiences that are real, and you will not be able to challenge that it is not possible, because nothing is impossible within this experience. Aaron will give you another experience of how we can measure and provide evidence, because I'm always frustrated in Europe when I'm told there is no capacity in Africa. They haven't the ability to deliver. We have to manage the monies for them. In 2003, I presented at the Magdalene Conference. Dr. Bai was there, along with the countries of Africa. The declaration was made, and the international recognition for sport as a tool of social and human development was identified. In 2004, Magdalene 2 looked to take it to the next level, and I presented an international framework that looked at the Millennium Development Goals, because they represent every member country of the United Nations, and as the Youth Charter has become a United Nations non-governmental organisation, we wish to exercise the rights, the UN rights of the child, and the other UN structures to try and underpin and enhance our work. I will not say it has been easy. In fact, it has been more difficult than winning the medals that I attempted to win in sport. But I will say this: the journey we have reached is where you are now able, with the 3 or 4 interactive sessions, to add the Namibian, Southern African, and African experience. The interactivity will sustain what Carl is asking for, whereas the journey will become a journey of momentum, of energy. Already I have seen in Charles and the new commissioners and the new efforts being made, is that there are people perfectly and adequately equipped, that my journeys now should be reflecting my age, my energy, and my ability to contribute only with adding value. Africans must take their place in this agenda. In Europe, we need your help. That's why I'm here. You have done it without resources. You have innovated, you have inspired. It is my hope that this experience will be shared within Southern Africa. Dr. Bay will do what his heart, mind and experience will tell him to do. Sipho and Aaron will go back to their countries. I believe in Zambia you intervene. In Namibia you can prevent, because you are nowhere near where South Africa is, and it needs rehabilitation. The 2010 World Cup is your opportunity, and we will look at that by way of the next steps. How do we employ and engage that talent on the streets? Sipho will share how it can be done. But there is already a model that can take this forward, that is social, that is economic, but it starts in school. So we will go back to school. And all I ask is that you have an open mind, an open heart, and you have some fun. An Israeli general looking at the Palestine-Israeli conflict, who does this work, said, "Jeff, don't take this all so seriously. Plenty of ice cream and plenty of fun, or else you will never last." So what is a social coach? Plenty of fun, plenty of ice cream, interact, network, challenge, because I thrive on the challenge. And if we haven't got the answers, then we must ask ourselves what the answers are. And I will set you this challenge to think about over the next 2 days. A blind man and a woman who cannot walk come to a river, and they both need to negotiate across that water the journey they wish to make. They have never made that journey before, but they have met at the waterfront. One has no legs, one has no sight. How, working together, will they cross that water? If you are able to immediately answer that question, you are already a social coach. That's why you're here. If you need to find out the answer, then that's also why we're here. And if you say we've already done it, then that's why you're already a trainer, to train the trainers. So the multiplication of the spirit and the energy is already something. I feel that we are well on our way. That is all I have to share with you. I will be visibly invisible. I will be the errant, disruptive child I was at school. And when my mother, as the best social coach I had, still chastises me and challenges me, I will be here, there and everywhere, filling the gaps, as will Sipho and Alan and others. Because we're here to make sure this is important. The future of what happens in Southern Africa and beyond now rests in your hands. And I do not think there are any safer hands than in the country of Namibia. Thank you for listening.
To say anything on that, I think at the end of the workshop we will look at some of the issues and so forth. First of all, I want to recognize the presence of Mr. Simata. He is the chairperson of the Namibian Sports Commission. And as Thompson already said, we have a new commission, and he is now heading the commission. Mr. Simaka, maybe people said we want to see you.
I'm a huge guy, so I need to negotiate the process of standing up.
Give him a round of applause.
Okay.
He's also the nation, so we have a very powerful person amongst ourselves. Thank you so much. Now, when we look at the program, I think we are well in time. And as I said earlier to you, that the minister will join us around the now is, if you want to ask questions or contribute to some issues which has been mentioned by Thompson or even Mr. Schleifer, then would like to answer that. It's not for us only to answer it. Anybody else in the audience can also stand up and say that and that and that. But it's a question and answer session whilst we're waiting for the Honorable Minister to join us. So with that, I would like my colleague to come forward and then maybe stimulate the session. Thank you.
Something you wish to share, you all have something you wish to see achieved, and there's something you wish to see realised. But you've heard much, and I would just, it's observations, questions, challenges. Do you know one thing I like about African mobiles? The tunes are different. They have a completely different rhythmic feel to them. They're until they get a grant. We can't do this because we haven't got a grant. Is it the same here? Do you not feel that the contribution of your time is the greatest contribution? And then, like any good business, you develop the business case and then investment is attracted. That's what we're attempting here. So I'm going to shut up now. And by the way, you can challenge anything. No, just your name and your organisation. Fine.
First of all, you give me the ground of... Yes, I think so. My name is Lazarus Mambo from Namibia Sport and Recreation Club. My coach is Chinese martial arts, as Georg has also mentioned now. What I would say at this point in time is just to welcome you in this part of the world, Namibia, and what you are from the past until now introduced to us here is a very exciting and complementary exercise for us, which are staying mostly in the townships of Wellington. And I'll also mention that we will, and I will use this opportunity to equip myself for better and excellent delivery and implementation of our program on the grassroots development curriculum. Starting there where we are and where a lot of challenges are, as well as crime with you. What you have mentioned and also shown for us here, whereby you have been inspired to start your powerhouse in the UK. So there will be a lot of questions also coming up as we go through the session itself, mostly for the resource side. But technically speaking, I am grateful that you are helping the ministry to widen up, you know, to more, to see brought up, you see, to the grassroots level of sport social input in development of the youth itself. And that is where my thanks are coming to you, and appreciation is coming to you, as well as to the Sports Commission's efforts which has arranged this.
By the way, can I, the martial arts family of Namibians, I think there were 16 in total, actually spent the day with us, and we looked at the policy. Briston and Carl and others actually provided the framework that actually had us look at how we could provide something that reflected your experience, your challenges and your opportunities. So I think there are four or five who attended that workshop. But it is part of consultation, but not only consultation, responding to that consultation. So welcome. But yes, the tools must be available to everybody.
It's dying because we don't have that much, very much well implemented program as far as physical education is concerned nowadays. And as one take back of, it's just a general knowledge for that matter, whereby your kids are well developed at schools level, where we talk about physical education starts there. That's where discipline starts, commitment, self-esteem starts there. And it's a very good platform for the Namibian Sport Commission to organize something like this, whereby we should always go back to the other ministries and we start there. Namibian Sport Commission will never go this alone. They will definitely have to consult the Ministry of Education besides sports. And when it comes to the Sport Directorate of Ministry of Sports, is whereby we set up a goal whereby we should educate our sport administrators that these things, we should come to a point whereby sport in Africa or in Namibia in particular, that we should do sports or make people that are doing sports, that we do it for intrinsic purposes but not for extrinsic purposes. That's where we are now, because if you ask a kid from the street what you want to do, no, I want to play rugby, I want to play soccer, but what would I gain out of soccer? I gained national colors through athletics and rugby, but I didn't gain money, I didn't gain house from rugby, but I was very encouraged to do this, because wearing my national jersey, getting on my government car to the airport, that's enough for me. It's whereby sport administrators, they need to understand that we should educate people that we don't gain in sport as much now. We're not South Africans whereby guys sleep and go to the gym and play rugby, they give our national team 50 odds. We should come to the point where the sport administrators should understand that we should encourage the people to do sports, and once you do it and you come to the intrinsic level, it should be self-rewarding. You should not wait for the government from the start to reward you up until there. I know, being yourself, you know how it starts. It's very hard. Sometimes you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Your eye is bleeding, your nose and your teeth is gone. No rewards. But then the day will come. Sports is self-rewarding, self-esteem. You will come there, whereby we'll start really getting something from sport. But not at the grassroots level. We are developing sport at the grassroots level. It is happening. But people might say the government are not giving money. The government gives social support in other means. We should not only look at money. There is a sports activities that are happening. The government is getting buses that are traveling on government expenses. These are things we should also appreciate the government, what the government is contributing to. Thanks.
Informal development, intrinsically and extrinsically. School. But we have to look at where the attainment can be realised to complement the physical activity, because I sense an air of frustration. But that frustration is no different when you have had the bloody nose and the cracked rib and the bruises. You've asked yourself the questions as to why you have done this, and you've realised that it was not just about the winning. It's a very lonely place to be. And I will challenge any competitor who has made the journey and not possibly finished the journey. There has to be something more than just winning. Which is why, if the journey cannot see sport as a collective responsibility, and it does start in schools, where if someone chooses a path that is to sport, they understand that the one thing I can guarantee you is injury. I can guarantee you will be injured. But how do you recover from that injury? How do you continue your journey? But someone may use the benefits and the characteristics and learning experiences of attainment. And I think this afternoon, and why we've started with education, and we've started with Sportwise, is we had learned that in school and out of school, there needed to be something that could re-engage people to education, that could use people who've been in sport, who've experienced the experience they've had, and become the social educators. So this whole term of social coach, social educator, instructors in the army, social instructors, we have been working with the army, so I'm excited that the army are here, but it's how you pull that all together so that when you have the Namibian Sports Commission, you present your policy framework. You identify your strategic plan within the short, mid and long term. You identify targets that identify the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Employment. All of those ministries have a policy goal that you can achieve. And as a result, that model is then something that you can cost and you can then identify within the codes. And I was interested in speaking to our Madam President of Athletics, that we have a first world, third world in sport. We have the royal family of codes. They are the ones that are supported by their international sporting federations. It is not much, but it is limited resource. And then you have those who simply exist. Netball was shared, the combat sports. None of the sports that are from my family can go individually. They must be collective. Because business do not want things that make too much sense to them. They want things that make sense that they can get on with and have the trust and confidence that when they invest, they will see their return. But I fully support the comment. Education is key and will reflect the first workshop. The worksheets are unique because it starts to measure the impact for the Ministry of Education. So after this afternoon, you would be able to go to the Ministry of Education and say, this is what we can do in school, out of school, and even in the young offenders institutions. These are the learning outcomes that can be realised. Whether you're in the army, whether you're in the sporting code, we as social educators and social coaches can do this learning experience with a sporting interest. That does a number of unique things and then sets up the next step of the journey when we go into the community. Please.
Has chosen us from where we were. If we were to check where he came from,